Okay, so part 2 is making the cover and the, I don't know, spine, hinges, whatever. So since our pages are 5 by 7, I always make my covers half an inch larger. So the front and back cover are going to be 7.5 by 5.5. Now I have a 12 by 12 piece of chipboard, so I'm going to cut at 5.5 first. Wait, no, I'm going to cut at 7 first. 7.5. My gosh, my brain. So 7.5 first. And I'm using my rotary cutter just because it's easier to cut chipboard. So 7.5, and then I'm going to cut 5.5. And then I'm going to cut it again at 5.5. And that's the front and the back cover. And then I have this piece left over here, and I'm going to cut it at 7.5 by 2 for the spine. I tend to always make my spines at 2 inches. Unless there's more than 6 pages, then I'll adjust it accordingly. And I find this to be the perfect size, so there's no alligatoring. Then I have a piece of Tyvek that I just cut down. There's no specific measurements. I just made sure that all 4 corners were flush. So do is cut this down to 7 inches wide. And then I get out my scoreboard and I'm going to make my spine. I do have a tutorial on just this, but I make my gussets 1/4 inch. So if you want your gussets larger than 1/4 inch, your measurements will be different. So I always start off with 1.5 as my first score mark. This is the part that's going to attach the whole spine, the binding, to the covers. And then I'm going to make the flaps. So I'm going to score at 2 and then at 2.5. And see, this is where your measurements will change if you want a bigger gusset. I'm going to stick with the 1/4 inch gusset, so I'm going to score 1/4 inch after that. Basically what you want to do is score at 1/2 inch. You want 2 1/2 inch scores and then your gusset score, whichever that will be. If you want it to be 3/8 inch, then you would score 3/8 inch over from that 1/2 inch. But like I said, I'm making my gussets 1/4 inch. So I'm just going to score 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch. So I'm going to do this 5 more times. So the next measurement, in case you want to write them down, is 3 1/4, and then 3 3/4, and then 4. So that was the 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, okay? And then 4.5, 5, 5 1/4. So that's 3 pages there. So I need to do 3 more. So 5 3/4, 6 1/4, 6 1/2, 7, 7 1/2, 7 3/4, and I already lost count. 1, 2, 3. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I just need to do 1 more. So 8 1/4, 8 3/4, and 9. And then that leaves this part here, which I'm going to cut down as well. So I'm just going to line the last score mark up to 1.5, and I'm just going to cut. And that's all there is to making the binding. So now I'm just going to fold on all my score marks, and just to kind of reinforce the score marks here, and I'm making sure that I line the side up so that it's straight here, so that I know that my score mark is straight. If I would line it up and then make it cattywampus, then it would be a crooked. Okay, so I have all of the score marks folded, reinforced. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply 1 piece of score tape on every other 1/2 inch score mark. By that, let me see if you can see, if I go in closer, what I'm talking about here. So this is the 1/4 inch score mark here, and then this right here is the 1/2 inch score mark, and I'm skipping a 1/2 inch score mark. and then there's a 1/4 inch, and then I'm placing the next piece of score tape on the next 1/2 inch score mark. What I'm going to do is just make sure that I burnish this down because I want the score tape to be nice and stuck on there. Let me zoom back out. I'm going to remove the tape on one, and I'm going to fold the 1/2 inch score mark that doesn't have tape on it onto the other one, and then I'm just going to burnish it down, and I'm folding that. So again, I'm taking off the score tape. So I'm going to try to get closer here. There's no score tape on this one, but there's score tape on this 1/2 inch mark. So I'm just folding those two together. Okay. And then when you open it back up, the next score mark that you have is your 1/4 inch gusset here. And you can see that that's kind of crooked now. So one of those marks I didn't score right, but it'll be all right. It's not like it's life or death and that you're not going to be able to use it. You will. I'm sure that all of my are crooked. So now this is the back. So I'm just going to really push down and burnish it. And here's the flaps that our pages are going to stick to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply score tape to both sides of this flap here. So I'll just do it on one side at a time, flip it over, do the other side.
I'm not the type's gotta have someone. I'm not the type's gotta be in love.
So now I'm going to just burnish the tape on there. Again, for the same reason you don't want it to come out when you're peeling the backing up. I'm just going to cut off the corner so that we can get our pages in there without any problems. Bring it over to the back where the 1/4 inch gussets are, and I'm just going to apply my score tape to each one of the gussets on the back. You could use wet glue here as well. You don't necessarily have to use score tape. You just want a good adhesion. I'm just going to cut off score tape from the side here, and now I'm going to get out my craft tex. Okay, so like I said, I just cut my craft tex. You want it long enough. You got to figure out how much you want hanging up on your covers. So like if I have this here, my cover is going to have a lot of craft tex, and I don't really want that. So basically I have a 2-inch spine, and I need to figure out how much I want going across the top. So I'm going to add roughly a 1/2 inch, so 2.5 inches. And if I want 1 inch to go on each side, I need this to be 4.5 inches. So I'm just going to cut this to 4.5 inches. Okay, now you can get, where's my ruler? Here we go. Here's a ruler, and I need a pen that I'm going to be able to see on the black. Well, I'm going to get this pink pencil here. So we cut this at 4.5, so 2 1/4 is the half, right? So I'm just going to make some dots here at the 2 1/4 inch mark, and I'm going to draw a line connecting those dots, and that's just the middle, right? So since my spine is 2 inches, I'm going to measure over 1 inch on each side. Oh, that's 1/2 inch. There's one. I'm going to do that again. This just helps me line it up so that I don't have more of the craft text on the front or more on the back. It's not going to be crooked when I place it down. You don't have to do this. You can eyeball it. I just wanted to show you an easy way to do it to make sure. Now, at this point, you can punch through your craft text to make a decorative edge on it so that when it goes on your paper or butts up against your paper on the front, that you will have a decorative border on there. Okay. So now I want to cover my sheets here since I'm going to be putting it on my craft text. And I'm just going to get out my paper and decide what I want for covers. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cover my covers with the gray cardstock and then cut out some paper. I'm going to fussy cut some paper and make my cover that way. So I could place this here, but it doesn't have enough wrap that I like. So I'm just going to use one sheet. And all I do to cover my covers is I just put my ATG or any kind of double-sided tape. It doesn't have to be like super strong or anything. Sometimes it's hard to get this ATG stuck down to the chipboard, but I just want to have adhesive on there. And again, you can use wet glue, glue stick, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever glue that you use. I just want it to go to the ends here. So I am just going to put that in the middle here, and I'm going to fold up my sides, and I'm burnishing. I'm just pressing this part here against the paper and the chipboard so it gets a nice crease there. That's all I'm doing. And if you didn't have the craft text, you can still do it like this and then just use cardstock, or you can use the Tyvek envelopes and back your cardstock on that. So now I have these 4 squares, and I'm just going to cut out these 4 squares. I'm just going to cut, and you want to leave a little gap in between where you're cutting and the corner so that when you wrap it, you don't show any of that chipboard there. And you see I'm not being very careful on my cuts. They're not completely straight or anything. That part doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that you leave a little bit of space in between where you're cutting and the chipboard, just like I said, so that when you fold it over. Now again, I'm going to flip it over and just burnish down, making sure it's real sticky. And then I'm using my ATG for this as well. You don't have to waste your expensive sticky tape. All right. And let's make sure. Again, I'm just burnishing it. I do want to place opposite sides of each other on there first, like so I'm doing this side and then this side. Now I'm folding it over, and you see where this comes into play. I'm just taking my fingernail and I'm pressing that paper in. If you don't have fingernails, you can use your bone folder and just kind of press it in there. So it makes a nice corner there. And that's all I'm doing there. If after you fold it over, you see a little piece like this sticking out, you can just take your scissors and snip it off. Okay, I'm going to use this as a back cover because some of that tape ended up piling on top of each other and made a little bump there. So I'm going to use that as my back. And I'm just going to repeat the same process with this piece.
Too soon to celebrate. Guess I'm doing better than before, but still I got a long way. And just maybe one day, baby, we'll be there at the top of the stage, like the 4th of July. We'll go big, surprise. Girl, that ain't no lie, but that means no sleeping tonight. I'm up in the middle of the night,
now I'm taking my spine and my craft text, and I'm just going to place some score tape on my spine. And then I'm going to place it in the middle here of the sheet of craft text. And you can get your craft text at Hobby Lobby, but it's in the fabric section. And usually it's hanging up by like the scissors and the pens and stuff like that. Is usually where I find it. I have not seen it at any other fabric store or craft store. And then my husband a couple years ago got me a whole bolt of the craft colored off of Amazon for Christmas. So you can get it on Amazon. So I'm just placing this on there, and then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to burnish it. Sometimes this craft text doesn't like sticking to anything really. And I'm folding over now, just creating my spine here. I'm just kind of training the craft text. This is like a fabric paper type stuff that you can wash. The Crafty Gemini actually just did a tutorial on how to make a wallet out of craft text, and you can use this for a lot of things. They have different colors you can stamp on it, paint it, and it's machine washable. You can iron it. If you crumbled it up and then sprayed it with water and then ironed it out, it kind of looks like leather. Not this color, but obviously the craft color one does. So this is the front of my cover. So I'm going to place this on there like this. So I'm going to be putting the score tape on the actual craft text here. And looks like I'm going to get about 3 pieces, and I do want to get really close to the edge there. And again, I'm going to burnish it really well. Now, I like to place my chipboard about 2 pieces of chipboard thickness away from each other. So here's 2 scraps that I had. I'll line them up right next to the chipboard there. And then I'll take the sheet and I'll line it up against that. I'll butt it up against that, and then I'll put it down. I've already stuck tape down, so it's not working very well. Let me show you on this side. So I would line these up like that and then place this on there, and then that leaves you with like maybe 1/4 of an inch gap in between there, and that's what I like to use. So I'm just going to eyeball this as best as I can. I'm making sure that it's lined up, it's straight, straight as I can get it with my crooked face. So there we go. And then I'm going to, where's the other piece? Nope, here it is, right in front of my face. And I'm going to do the same thing to this other side. Uh-oh. You know what's funny is this score tape. It says the Sukwang on it, and there's like other brands that are come out now that are called something different, but they still say Sukwang on it, so you know it's the exact same stuff. But I don't know. I just think that's weird. So they must sell to different people under different names, I guess. So again, I'm just lining this up, making sure it's straight. I want it to be flush here. And what you could do is you could stick, you know, a ruler or something here to make sure that you're lining it up and that it's not going to go above or below or whatever. So I'm going to flip it over, burnish that really well. And now we're just going to put these pieces over like this. So we're going to stick some score tape on there as well. I'm just going to cut this off because we don't need that much. And this is I do the same with this as I do anything else. I just kind of run my bone folder against it to kind of train it to go where I want it to go. And I'm gonna fold it down onto that. And I like using the craft text because a lot of times when you use cardstock or what have you, it'll crack. Even if you spray it with water and fold it, mist it, whatever, it always seems to crack. My spines, they always do. So this stuff doesn't crack. And so I like using it since they have so many different colors. And now I'm just kind of pushing it down into the cracks so that I can place this on there. Now I also like to kind of miter my corners on this as well. I try not to go so extreme on the mitering of these corners though. Whoops. That'll just help when I cover the inside, it'll kind of hide it a little bit. So I'm just going to take off all this tape backing and pop it down in the middle of the spine. I'm going to center it from top to bottom as well. Since the covers are a 1/2 inch larger, it's going to be about 1/4 inch from the top and the bottom. If you want to measure it out, you can. You can lay a piece of this score tape backing because that's 1/4 inch. If you want, you can lay it down like this. It makes it hard though to put it down, so you can just kind of eyeball it like I do. And I'm going to center these 2 score marks on the side, these long ones here. I'm going to center those in between, and that's why I pressed these down so that I could see clearly where they were. So I'm just going to center those in there and make sure that it's flushed, not flushed, but it's not crooked on the bottom or on the top. And then when I think that it's in the right spot, I'm just going to press the flaps down. I take my bone folder or something else, and I'm going to press in on each of these gussets to make sure that score tape is nice and adhered. Okay. Then I'm going to take my bone folder and run it into the crease of the page and flatten it out as I fold it so it doesn't wrinkle up. Like if I were to fold it here, see, it's kind of like wrinkling up here, and you don't really want it to do that. So just press inside there and burnish it as you go in. And so here is the covers. And now I'm going to attach my pages. I like to attach my pages before I decorate because I used to try to decorate and then attach my pages, and then the decorations and the paper and everything get in your way. And then sometimes you can decorate in a certain order and then get them out of order. So for me, it's just easier to attach the pages and then decorate. So I'm going to remove the tape backing on one hand. So I want the flap on the top like this, because when we open the book, it's like this, and I want this page to open up like that. So that's how I'm going to insert it. So now I'm going to open up the pocket, make sure that I get this opened up this time. The flap's on the right side. It's on the top like I want it to be. Here we go. Yay, I did one right. Woohoo! Third time is a charm. So that one opened on the left. This one's opening on the right. This flap's on the top. Again, I'm opening it up. Yep, that's right. And smashing it down and close it out.
Oh, that ain't no lie. But that means no sleeping tonight. I'm up in the middle of the night. In the night. Oh, that's alright. Wonderful. I'm one of them. Ooh, but still my life must be something, yeah, something now. To me, I fight all the battles in my mind, and it keeps me strong. Everybody in the world has their problems, yeah. Life goes on. I've had some crazy dreams, and they won't stop till I make something. I've gotta make something, something of me. Hey-oh, I'm working hard for whatever I want. Hey-oh.
So there's all my pages inserted in there. So now I'm going to cut a piece of pattern paper for here and a piece of pattern paper for there. And I'm just going to get my pattern paper out, and I'm going to use this just because it's got this border around it and it's got this best day ever. So what I'm going to do is, since my covers are 7.5 by 5.5, I'm going to cut this at 7 1/4, which I can't see. So I'm going to cut it at 7.5. I'm going to flip it over and cut 1/4 inch off, which hopefully I'll be cutting off this white border on the bottom. All right, and then I need it to be 5 1/4. So I'm going to cut it at 5.5 and then flip it over and cut this white part off. It didn't work quite so well, but it will. All right, so I have these gray sheets, and I am just going to put adhesive on them and center it on this back page here. There we go, and that covers that mess up, and I'm going to do the same thing on this. And that is how I do my covers and my pages. Now, what I could do is cover this up with some decoration, but there is the front, side view, the back, the top. So now you can just meld this so that it stays. So now I can decorate my pages. And what I'll do first is I'll go through and cut my paper. Since my pages are 7 by 5, I'm going to cut all my paper at first at 6 3/4 by 4 3/4. And then I'll cut down the smaller pieces, but that way I have the bigger pieces to start out with. So this looks like it hangs out there. I should have cut that before I attached it, but of course I didn't. So I can kind of see through the dots here. Cut the flap off. Make sure there's no other one. Nope, that's it. So that is the covers and the binding and attaching the pages. So I hope you guys liked my mess ups, and the next video will be decorating. So thanks for watching, guys. Bye.